Well, you might hear a bit of wind noise in the background, but I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about that. It's been a long day, and this is the only chance I have to say anything, and I don't want to skip today since late last night I saw within 20 seconds of Andy tweeting it out that, oh, Mr. Michael Reinoehl, or however the hell you say his name, it's one of those damn German Nazi names that I can't pronounce, he was killed by the cops, specifically by the U.S. Marshals. And it was also within like a few minutes, I think, of Trump tweeting out, hey, why isn't this Michael Reinoehl guy been arrested yet? Kyle's arrested immediately, yet this guy who killed one of my supporters, he's out running free. These Portland local government types, they're completely useless. Well, apparently, Portland Police Bureau had issued a warrant for this guy's arrest, and they were working with the U.S. Marshals, which, of course, federal organization, to try and apprehend him, because apparently he had crossed into the state of Washington, which, kind of a similar situation to the whole thing with Kenosha, Wisconsin. Portland is really close to the border with Washington, so it's kind of understandable that someone might cross into that border, although he was pretty far in. I believe Olympia, Washington is not like right next to Portland, so it's not exactly as let's say as innocent as the whole situation with Kyle Rittenhouse. But again, I don't really care if somebody crosses state lines. It's kind of their own business. But they tried to apprehend him. Apparently, he was not going to go down without a fight, based on what we know. Although we don't have videos, so there's not conclusive evidence. But the marshals say that he pulled a gun, and there was a shootout, which makes me think that there might have been gunfire on both sides. Only he was injured. He was killed. The only video we have is of apparently a bystander who was videotaping the police trying to resuscitate Mr. Reinoehl, or Reinoehl, or whatever the hell. And this was also as the interview of let's just call him Michael, Michael the shooter, was airing, courtesy of Vice. And a lot of people seem to be mad at Vice for putting this out, because it was, very friendly and sort of propaganda-y. They did not ask him any challenging questions. And it does seem like the journalist is, a pro-Antifa activist. But I'd much rather they put this out there than not, because this is the only record we have of this guy talking. Whether you think it's propaganda or not, it's a part of history. It's important to have some record of what was said. And this guy wanted to put the message out there that he was just defending his friend of color, and that these rabid Trump supporters were going to come and kill him, and they were going to surround him, and there was some person of color, which we don't really know who they are. I didn't see any black guys under threat in the video of this Michael guy shooting the Aaron Danielson, or Jay, as he seems to be known by his friends. And so, there's two possibilities here. Either there's more that the original video didn't show, and there was some greater context that Michael really was alluding to here, or two, he's lying, or three, he's just nuts. I think that the second two possibilities are what's most likely. But I have to say, yesterday couldn't have gone better for the left and for the Antifa types, because not only was this guy able to get his side of the story out there and say basically, hey, I'm a good guy, I was just doing the right thing, and these evil, vile Trump supporters invaded our city, even though apparently Aaron Danielson actually lived in that area. He was from Portland and lived in that neighborhood, from what I've heard. But again, I can't confirm. I don't know Aaron Danielson's exact address. But anyway, this guy was able to get his message out there. He was able, through a pretty big platform, Vice. Vice puts out a lot of trash, but they do have influence. So everyone, who cares about these sorts of issues saw that interview, and then they saw him turn up dead, killed by cops. So, he's now been martyred. He's never going to stand trial. He's never going to be a convicted murderer. All of the evidence is not going to come to light. He will have died someone who claimed to be just doing the right thing. And a lot of people are going to, choose to believe his side of the story, whether you like it or not. And so I think he may very well have wanted to go out this way. Once he got his story out there, apparently in the interview, he was talking about how he kind of, he saw this as a very important moment, what he did. He thought that this might have been the start of a broader conflict. He might have, seen himself as sort of someone who was sparking off a greater conflict in this country. And I think he was someone who wanted to die for the cause that he believed in. And so we've seen all over now, Antifa types are mourning his loss. They are treating him as a martyr, as a fallen soldier of the struggle. And last night, the only reaction that I really saw was them painting on the street in front of the Portland Police Bureau messages, about how he was murdered and about how he was a hero and stuff like that. But they didn't get too violent last night. The Antifa types seemed almost solemn by their standards. So now I think all eyes have to turn to Portland tomorrow when the Proud Boys are set to have their big event. Of course, the boys are back in town. I love that tagline. It's cheesy and hokey, but I mean that's what's fun about the Proud Boys. And so they're ready to come back in, have their march, and if they have to, defend themselves against Antifa. And I think the Antifa folks are going to be in, they're going to be in the mood to draw some more blood. I think that they want, an eye for an eye in this case. You could almost say that was why this Antifa guy killed old Aaron Danielson. A lot of these Antifa folks were upset that Kyle had taken out a couple of their own back in Kenosha. There were BLM activists speaking it wasn't in Portland, but I believe it was in Minneapolis or Kenosha, prominently, who essentially, said something to the effect of, hey, you take one of ours, we take one of yours. And so I think there's probably an appetite on the left right now to draw more right-wing blood after the death of this guy. And so we may be in a stage now where we could see rapid escalation, where we might see, a lot of these Proud Boys, they're smart guys. They're coming prepared. They know that Antifa is going to want to kill at least one of them. If they're prepared to defend themselves and win and not get isolated like this Aaron guy does, well, then we may see some pretty serious brawls in the streets, and we may see multiple deaths. That's not something I want to rule out. I'm not fear-mongering. I think that's a very reasonable thing to not necessarily predict, but to not be surprised by. I'm not saying I expect that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were to happen. And so we may finally be getting to that stage that you saw in late 20s Germany, when you had, the real Antifa, the real militant wing of the Communist Party of Germany, out in the streets battling the brown shirts. Of course, I don't think the Proud Boys are brown shirts, and I don't think that that Antifa is really on the level of the Communist Party of Germany, although they are communists. But they're not the same folks, because of course the Antifa of old, of the late 20s, they were actually fighting Nazis. The term Antifa is really an anachronism. I don't think that the term fascism really can apply to anyone since the 1930s. It's rather a historical phenomenon. But that's a discussion for another day. You don't necessarily have to have the exact same groups lining up to have a similar scenario. And of course, I don't think that all of this will end the way it ended for Germany with the rise of a Hitler or something like that. I don't think that would happen in the U.S. I think that if we get to the stage of rival gangs battling out in the street, trying to mete out this eye for eye standard of pain on one another, that the most likely end and the most peaceful end, the optimal thing that I would like to see happen, would be an eventual dissolution of the United States. Now, unfortunately, I don't think if things continue down the road we're on, it's not going to be peaceful like it was for the Soviets. There are no mature politicians or leaders or statesmen who will stand up and say, you know what, the jig is up. We need to end this. We need to stop fighting each other. Unfortunately, that's not the nature of democracy. I think that we're going to see something very similar, perhaps, to what happened with the dissolution of Yugoslavia, to where that country was starting to be democratized, and these guys who were running for office had to win re-election. And how did they win? They had to be elected now. They weren't just appointed by the Communist Party. They had to, appeal to the people with notions of their own local nationalisms, which is not really something that we have here in the U.S. But nevertheless, there are divisions to exploit here, different divisions than existed in Yugoslavia, but divisions nonetheless. And so I guess my basic point is that tomorrow has the potential to be the first in a series of violent street battles that really will inevitably culminate in the dissolution of the United States. I think that that's on the table now. We could still turn back. Things might not go that way, but that is what I'm looking for tomorrow. I will be looking for just how well put together both sides remain tomorrow. Because right now there's a lot of kindling, and it's just a matter of if anybody is going to show up to this party with a match. So I guess that's all I have to say for on this topic for today. If you get anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.